Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning.
Good morning. We were running.
That was hilarious.
It was. So Kate and I just talking, and I go, "Oh shit, Kate, we're supposed to be live."
Yep. You know, it happens.
We were just having a great time chatting.
Yes. We're just doing our normal thing and totally, just wearing the same shirts and just having a conversation, totally forgetting why we are here.
Oh, that was hilarious. Well, welcome everyone. And so welcome to the fun. And so we're wearing our rainbow shirts today because we're ready to have some fun today.
Yes, we are. We are. Good morning, badasses.
Good morning, and let us know that you are here. So say hello. And also if you are new to BOYBAS, include a white heart or just a heart in the comments to let us know that you are new. And then for those that have been here, one thing just to note, we have been noticing, hopefully it's working. I noticed it worked the other day, but from my phone on LinkedIn, sometimes you can't make comments. So go over to YouTube, go over to Facebook, or get on a desktop on LinkedIn. So that's one of the things we've been noticing. So if you're getting frustrated, stop being frustrated and go to one of those other devices. So, so we have some individuals. So Tracy.
Good morning, Tracy.
Facebook, she says good morning. And then we have a new person. And so coming in from LinkedIn. And so I am not going to say her name because I do not want to mess it up. And so
I hope it's Adamambo.
Oh, okay. I love that. And so,
yes.
And so let's see. Oh, we got a heart as well. And so Adamambo, I believe you are probably new. And so welcome. And then we have a Facebook user, just so you know, you do have to go to streamyard.com/Facebook, I believe it is, to be able to allow us to be able to see your name. And so welcome, new person that has joined. And then Kim Stamps, she said, good morning, beautiful badasses.
Good morning.
Good morning, badass yourself. And so congratulations to Kim. Kim just got a promotion. And so super excited for her on her journey forward, continuing on. She is becoming an account manager within our company. So we do this separately, but she's one of the individuals in our company. And so we do see you here. So we're able to see you on Facebook. You would just look up BOYBAS as well, BOYBAS, and we would be there as well. Or you can just search, bring out your badass self. And then we have another person from Facebook. And so welcome. Can't see your name, but glad you are able to join us. And we're looking forward to you following us. Yes. And so, Kate, what have you been up to this week?
Oh my gosh, it's been a weird week for me. I ended up doing an entire reorganization in my office. Had a little bit of electrical issues. And, yes. But then I had been wanting to reschedule, or not reschedule. I've been wanting to move things around. So I was able to get that done. But, anyone who works from home, or at an office as well, when you reorganize things, move things around, it just complicates stuff for a little bit because we are so tied to this hardware that we use, right? So
it is.
I've had some interesting challenges. I did a live demo on Tuesday that I was like just barely ready for in terms of my hardware, and luckily it went off without a hitch, but
oh, that's great.
It's been hard. Yeah.
And you said that you didn't have your demo script. You just, You flew by the seat of your pants.
Yes, because I usually prep the day before, and the day before I was still like I was kind of just working but hobbling together a desk, not really thinking about the implications of I'm going live, like it's not just Zoom meetings or whatever, like I'm going live and I need to make sure that people can for sure hear me. I can't, cobble in and just dial in my phone if something's not working, so all of a sudden I had all this, more stuff that I needed to do. And I didn't get to update my script with our latest release. So I just decided, you know what? I'm going to pull a Sarah and I'm going to wing it. And it ended up working really well. And I had a sense it would, because in the past I would do that too. I just hadn't done that yet with this particular demo. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. So the other day I actually had to do a CRM demo. And I, most of the time I'll give myself notes like, this project, that type of thing,
right.
And things like that. So I was actually very prepared, Kate.
Ooh, shocking.
I know, but I'm so used to it's just second nature for me to do a lot of things. So I'm able to do things on the fly. I'm like, yeah, let's get in. Let's go. Let's
get it.
We'll figure it out. So for me, go ahead.
I was going to say, and wasn't that one a huge success? I mean, as well, like it went off really well.
So we will find out later this month.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I went up to DC this week. And so flew up there. Every time I travel, you go in the hotel, you're in the airport and everything. I was very stuffy this morning, but I'm feeling better now, so I'm looking forward to, I'm actually going to be traveling again. So I'm actually going to be connecting, and I'm going to be on a different show tomorrow. So if you guys want to come and join us, I'm actually going to be a part of the No BS tribe. So they're actually coming to my cabin. So we have, let's see, I think 5 women and 2 men that are going to be there. So we'll all be together at the cabin. And we're all going to be live on.
You're going live from the cabin.
We are, yeah.
From the mountains of Georgia, people.
That's right. That's right. Well, we have a few more people that have joined us. So let's be sure to say hello to Bruce. He said, good morning from the road, badasses. So please don't type while you're driving. And so we do want interaction. So, just pull off to the side or speak to Siri.
Yes, please.
And Eric is joining us. He said, good badass morning. Good morning, Eric.
Good badass morning, Eric.
Yeah. I see we got a lot of people today, so it's amazing. So thank you guys.
Awesome.
Today's going to be a great topic.
Yes. Super excited about it.
Yeah. Well, do you want to jump in, Kate, to the topic?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, definitely. So let's go.
Yeah. So today, the main thing we want you to keep in mind is that we want to get curious with you. And Kate and I are going to get curious with you as well. We want to make sure that we're self-reflecting. That's ultimately what the purpose of today is. And it's not about judging yourself, but rather just being more self-reflective. And so I'm looking forward to everything and getting interactive.
Yes. Yeah. So, as always, please comment, and interact with us. We love that. This is all about, prioritizing things for ourselves versus seeking external validation. And so Sarah, I think quite aptly named this the mirror of happiness, which I think is really cool. So that's what we're talking about today, the mirror of happiness, folks.
Yeah. And so it's meant to be thought-provoking. And so we're going to be asking some questions today. We have like 4 questions outlined to get your mind thinking. And really how this started, Kate, how I got this idea was I was on the No BS with Jen and Jess, and Jen posed a question. And her question that she posed was, are we seeking agreement or engagement from our social media posts? And so it really got me thinking, and I thought, well, let's take it a little bit further. And so I started thinking, in our daily lives, are we doing things because we're seeking happiness through external validation? So meaning,
Right.
are we looking in the mirror for happiness, or do we do things because we need that external approval, recognition, or validation? And I can tell you that I've done that, and so guilty as charged. And haven't we
Yes.
all?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And in fact, I mean, I think there are people that look in the mirror and aren't even really asking themselves what they see. They're
Mhm.
seeing themselves through the lens of an external validation point, like
Yeah.
how do I look compared to society's, view, right? Or
Yep.
society's judgments.
Yeah. So let's ask our first question. So our first question for the audience is, do you seek reassurance and approval from friends, family, or colleagues in order to feel validated? And so take a moment, and we want to hear from you on this. And I know, Kate, we had some thoughts about this as far as examples that we've sort of seen in life, whether it's us, whether it's with other people. And so we just wanted to talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, please chime in, everyone. Let us know what your thoughts are around whether you are, seeking that reassurance or approval from friends in order to feel validated. And there's a difference. Oh yeah, good. I love Lori. I love that Lori, you've been along for the ride since we interviewed your cause.
Yeah.
It's been great to see you coming along. So the first thing I wanted to talk about or mention is that there's a huge difference between wanting to feel validated in your emotional and close relationships, right?
Mm.
Like that's something like if you're expressing something to someone that you love, it's okay to want them to validate that, right? That's not the same as what we were talking about in terms of this reassurance or approval, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
Receiving validation on a shared experience or a non-shared experience is not a bad thing.
Right.
What we're trying to get to is when your only source of validation for everything is external, that can often that can turn into a bad thing, or that is that often can be a bad thing.
Yeah. And so Eric said, absolutely, but more feedback than approval. And so I think that's a really good point. And so feedback is really important. And it's interesting because tomorrow, that's actually the topic we're going to talk about, is feedback versus input. So join the No BS tribe as we talk a little bit further about that. And so, but getting feedback from someone isn't necessarily validation. I mean, it is, but it's not really seeking approval from that person. Like,
Right.
so the question is, when you're getting that feedback, if they tell you something negative about yourself, do you then believe that? I guess is then
Right.
the question. So one of the
Yes.
examples that I had was, so after a divorce or a death of a spouse, when you are remarrying, are you expecting your kids to accept your new mate before you can be happy?
Right.
And this is something that I've actually been dealing with. And so for me, my mom has remarried. And I guess the question is, a lot of people go through divorce. And a lot of times they, of course, want their spouse to be accepted by their family. And sometimes they may not necessarily get along, or they may not see eye to eye. And so, is it that you can't be happy because you feel like that person, your daughter or your son or things like that, haven't accepted that other person, so therefore you're stopping yourself from being happy? And so for me, it doesn't matter what the daughter or anybody really thinks, if you're actually happy and you're really self-evaluating and self-reflecting, like if this person really makes you happy and they're not excluding you or keeping you from other family members, does it really matter what the other people think? I don't know. I'm asking the question. So for me, I say be happy.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because so as we're gonna get into the episode, like I'm super excited to continue to talk about some of the questions, because some of the things that I do actually do, and I found myself doing them. With this particular first question, I do love reassurance from the people that I trust, right? Like I'm a believer that there's nothing necessarily wrong with that,
right?
And maybe reassurance for me feels more like feedback, right? But when I think about the moments in my life where I knew something was right for me, like when I wanted to marry Jenna, right? There were a lot of people that around us that were like, absolutely not. I mean, including some of the people that we trust the most, right? Because for a few reasons. I mean, because there was some homophobia, there was fear, there was this previous relationship, and so there were lots of things involved, and nothing could have swayed Jenna and I from each other at that point. We did not care what anyone else thought. Now, did it hurt our feelings a little bit? Yes. Right. And so I kind of use that as my barometer, right? So am I as sure of this as I am about other big choices I made? And when I'm not sure, when I'm seeing myself relying too much on, well, what does Jenna think? Or what does my dad think? Or what is this? Not that I want to know those things, because those are my most trusted advisors, right? But at the same time, I have to do what's best for me. And I have to know that that they're going to back that up, right? That they're going to think about what is best for Kate. And if Kate wants this and Kate believes it's what's best for her, then that's the right thing.
Exactly. I mean, it's about release. For me, it's a lot about releasing people to make the choices that make sense for them. So therefore, my relationship, for example, with my mom is my relationship with my mom. And so we can continue to maintain that relationship, even if I don't necessarily have as strong of a relationship with her husband.
Right.
And so, but she loves him, like she, this is someone that she trusts, someone that she, feels does a lot for her. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's great. I also know our relationship as well, my relationship, and there's been a struggle there. And I'm just being very, open and honest about it, because this is one of the things that I have struggled with. That doesn't mean that I don't want happiness from my mom. It's just that I also know what's right for me. And it's a relationship that has to be built, and we've got to build that trust together in order for me to have that relationship. That doesn't invalidate how my mom feels about the person. And that's the biggest thing, for her to know, is that I can feel how I feel and she can feel how she feels. And we both should be okay with that.
Yeah. But so you're on the receiving side of the person seeking approval, or like you're the approver, right?
Right. And I don't want to be the approver. Like, it's not my job to be the approver.
Right.
Yeah. And so Lori said here, I'd be curious, Lori, she said, that's a tough one. And so, and I did this one on purpose. I was like, you know what? I'm going to get fucking vulnerable today. I'm going to put something out there that's going to be super uncomfortable for me. And honestly, I didn't talk to my mom about it. So I apologize to her if this was something that, she feels uncomfortable with. But I do feel like it's important for people to know, like want someone to be happy in the choices that they're making for themselves. So for me, my love and my, approval, it is more about like, are you happy? Like that's all
Right.
that matters to me. Do you feel
Right.
like this person makes you a better person? Great.
Yes. Okay, so let's get a little deeper. When someone, and this might not be your mom's situation at all, but when someone is so actively seeking approval from someone else, is that sometimes a reflection of the fact that maybe they aren't really happy?
Maybe not really. Not necessarily, I don't think. I think it's that it can sometimes be how that person grew up. Like if you grew up that you're taught to seek validation externally, and this is
Yes.
one of the things that I actually talked about previously. You hear all the time parents that say, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of
Right.
you. I don't say that anymore. I say, I hope you're proud of yourself. And the
Yes.
reason why is the switch is that if we're constantly seeking validation and approval that someone else is proud of us, then we're doing it because we're trying to get that person to be proud of us versus, are you proud of yourself? And
Right.
there's a real switch there, a real mind switch when you really start to think about those things. So I'm going
And
to give another example. And this is a scenario with a friend. And so, as a son and a daughter, are you going to the college that you want to go to, or are you getting a degree because your parents expect you to?
yeah, right. And that's another tough one, right? Because as a kiddo, your brain's not done developing,
Yeah.
and you rely on your parents' guidance. I mean, because that's their job. So,
Hmm.
and are you expected to know exactly what what you want to do, or what would be the right path for you? So it's a little bit of a catch-22, right? But um, are you going to be successful in that degree or in that college program if it's not really what you want, right?
Exactly. Because you're
So
doing it for that other person. And then what if you don't live up to their expectations of
right,
now you've done this for them, and then maybe you don't get it the high enough grades, or maybe you
right,
don't get it, maybe you apply to the college and you don't even get into the college that they want you to get into. Now, how
right.
does that person react to you? Are they telling you that's okay? Let's seek something else. Or are they saying, well, I'm really disappointed?
Yeah, right.
I mean, like that's about you. That's not about it's not about the other person. And that's really, the thing about seeking validation with other people. And I find this even, in love. Like we seek validation from our loved ones, but if would they be okay with choices that you make if that's what actually makes you happy?
Hmm.
Like this is something that my husband, and I have dealt with, and he says all the time. He's like, "Well, if that makes you happy, I'm all for it."
Right.
And
Yep.
so,
Yeah.
it's not about him, it may not be something he's necessarily wanting, with for me, or, it's going to impact us, like maybe he sees me less, things like that. So that's not, he can express those concerns, but if that's something that's really going to make me happy, like doing this show, for example, it takes away time from family, but it's
Right.
something I really enjoy doing. It fills my cup.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
I gotta get to some of these comments, sorry.
Yep. Yep. No, there's some great ones coming in here.
So Lori she said she's
Bye, Lori.
on a flight, may have to drop, but she loves this topic. And then I gotta go back up to, okay. She
Sure.
also said that open and honest communication is so crucial. She loves it. Let me get back up to Bruce. Bruce said, no, I have been very concerned about the topic or the toxic nature of external validation and have conditioned myself over time to find such behavior off-putting.
Yeah, let's pause for 1 second there.
Yeah.
Because there's some great tools that you can use to do that conditioning. And so, Bruce, I would be interested to hear from you, like, what did you do? I have found that it's helpful to remind myself, that that my happiness matters.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, especially when we are in the thick of life, right? We are caregivers. We are sometimes also still receiving care. We're stuck in the middle of a few different phases in our journey, right? And it becomes hard to see what is truly best for you when you are trying to prioritize all of the needs around you. So I have to regularly remind myself that my happiness matters,
Yeah.
that in order to really be able to distinguish, what is feedback versus what is validation versus what is actually toxic.
Yes. So let me get to Tracy. Tracy said, great point. Releasing others to do what's right for them gives ourselves permission to turn within and approve ourselves.
Yeah.
I love that.
And so, like, with your mom, Sarah, you're modeling to her by telling her, like, what, your happiness matters more than my approval.
Right.
That's all I want is for you to be happy, and I approve of that. Like, that's the thing. You can say, like, Mom, I validate your desire to be happy. I approve
Absolutely.
of your happiness. That's an approval of your marriage.
Exactly.
That's it, right? You don't have to approve of anything more. You just approve of, yes, you as a person I love, you have every right to do whatever it makes, whatever you need to make yourself happy.
Yeah. And so we have someone from YouTube. So welcome. I found myself feeling guilty for being happy and needing to try to change others' moods. Now I love myself and happy to be me and unaffected by others' opinions. So I'd be curious, how did you do that? And so what
Yeah.
is it? What is it that finally gave you that aha moment that gave you permission? You gave yourself permission to say, you know what? It's not about other people. I shouldn't feel guilty for being happy. And so I'd be
Right.
curious to see. And so Tracy also says, I think a good question for everyone to ask themselves in regards to people in our lives, does this person truly see me? I love that. If you don't
Yeah.
feel truly seen, then their approval is null. Ooh.
Right. And it's so true that if the person does truly see you, then they most likely want the best for you, right? If they've taken the time to see you, then they should love you. They should love what they see, right? And be and be there for all of the moments, right?
Yeah.
Whether they,
He said full
oh,
disappointment. It took a lot, basically rock bottom. Yep. And sometimes that's exactly what we need in life.
right.
And
Yeah.
so
As
Bruce,
painful as it is, you got to
yeah.
sometimes hit the bottom.
And Bruce also said, I found trusting others without being skeptical was dangerous. So I learned that being able to make sound judgments allowed me to become self-sufficient. Yeah. All right. So let's get to maybe the next question. We ready to jump? All right.
Yes.
So let's get to the second one. So, do you sometimes get involved in activities or hobbies or buy things because they are popular or trendy? Kate, what do you think about this? As she holds up her, is that a Stanley?
Yeah.
I love it.
I will say, full on disclosure, that there are very few trends that I give a shit about, but when they hit something that is already a sweet spot for me, in this case, beverage containers, because I love beverage containers, right? Like, I love beverages. And when this whole Stanley thing came out, I immediately was like, wait a second. There's a superior beverage container that I have assumed was in one lane and now is in a new lane. I need to definitely be a part of it. And
Oh my God.
that is our consumerism and the nature of of all of us, you know, to some degree. So I am full on guilty of that. Now, there are very few trends that do like tickle me in that way, you know, enough where I will do something about it. But, you know, I just literally got this last week, so I could not help but be very excited to show it off during this portion of our episode.
That is hilarious. I had no idea that you had gotten one. And so my daughter came up to me and she was like, Mom, I got to get a Stanley. And I'm like, Stanley? Like, I'm thinking back, like, this is isn't a Stanley like the soup thing and the container thing? And
yep, the thermos. That's what I always thought of it.
Dad had, you know, and I'm like, I even think I had like a forest green one and stuff like that. I was like, a Stanley? And she was like, yes. There's like a rose gold one. And she was like, I have to have it. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? And so then I'm looking it up and I'm like, holy cow, look at the price on these things. And then even for Christmas, she was like, so apparently I ordered the 30 ounce. She wants the 40 ounce.
Right. Because the 40, yes.
So I'm like looking and the prices were like getting up to like $90. I was like, no, whoa, hang on, time out.
Right.
Like,
right.
What is this? And then the more I researched it, I was like, oh, wow. I'm like, it's fear of missing out. Like, oh my gosh, everyone else. And Jay even came to me. He was like, man, I dropped off Riley because the bus was running late. He goes, and every single girl that gets out of the car is holding her Stanley. And
yep.
And I was just like, really? And then I asked her, I said, so is this just a girl thing? Is this do boys have it as well? And she was like, no, boys don't have it except for Dr. Para. And I was just like, okay. And who's her Spanish teacher? She was like, and he has like multiple.
Yeah. Yes. Well, okay. So and I don't want to spend too much time talking about Stanley. I really don't. But this is a passion of mine. And so I will tell you that $50 is not out of my range for a good beverage container.
Okay.
It's not, because I spent that on my other ones. So I have some thermal flasks, I have some Yetis, so but what I really love about the Stanley is I love the whole marketing spin. I love what they did. They took a very old product and they spun it and made it, new and relevant and trendy. Yeah. So, the marketer in me was happy to jump on board in that regard. But they also, there's some real solid things there. They are offering a lifetime guarantee for these things. And I just think it's fun. So, but
if it's bringing you joy, right. So I guess the real question in this is, are we potentially missing out on things, that genuinely bring us joy? Like, so the beverage thing, like, that brings you joy. Like, that is something that actually brings you joy. Like, if anybody has ever noticed, Kate sometimes will be drinking out of 4 different cups as we have this show.
Yes.
So she has all of her different beverages that she likes to partake in. And so, but it's more a reflection of, are we looking at things that we're looking for acceptance? Like, you didn't buy the Stanley because, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be accepted by my friends if I don't have a Stanley, or I got to buy these particular pants because I need to be able to look like a particular way. And so I would say for me, I never was like this. Like, I remember growing up, I was Walmart clothes. I didn't give a shit. Like, did it look good on me? I still am like this today. Like, I'm trying to think of anything. Like, I love my iPhone, but it's not like fear of missing out, which is a lot of this. I'm not doing it because I'm fearful that I might be missing out on something. It's that I really like the phone and I like the capabilities within it. And so that's really, I guess, the question in this one is, are you doing it to fit in with the Joneses, or does it bring you joy?
Right. Yeah. Right. And so, I think I mean, we all have those products or those commercial things that we love. And I think it's easy to get caught up in what's trendy or what looks right versus, really focusing on what you love.
Yeah.
And the same is true for like hobbies, right? Or other things that are popular, so,
Mhm.
um, you know, um, are you pursuing, are you like, for me, I kind of look at this as a hobby, right?
Mhm.
And it makes me happy just like you. So that's why I continue to do it.
Yeah.
And does it take time from other things? Yeah, it does.
Yep.
But all hobbies do, right? So you have to,
Yeah.
you have to kind of measure that. Um, and then there are kiddos that are, are they playing soccer? Are they in that musical because it's their passion? Or
Right.
is it the passion of their parents, right?
Yes.
And how do as a parent, it's
Mm.
hard to distinguish, like, where do you push because you see a talent and you
Mhm.
think, okay, they aren't, because their brain's not developed, they aren't wise enough to see how this talent could play out potentially. So I push them
Mhm.
in that direction, or I'd love to see them doing this, so it's a tricky area, I think.
I think that's a great point. And I have had to do this multiple times with my daughter. Like
Mhm.
she's very talented. She's very good at sports. I got her into softball. I was into softball growing up, but she turned to me and one day she said, "Mom, I just don't love it." And I was like, "Okay,
Mm.
well then let's not do it. Like if you
Right.
don't love it." And so we stopped doing that. And then we did gymnastics. And
Mhm.
she loved gymnastics, but she liked it when it was fun. Like she did not want to do the competitions. She did not
Ah,
like it when it got competitive, and she just sort of fizzled out because that's where she was at. Like she had to, in order to continue, they were requiring her to like go to a next level where she was going to have to get competitive, and she just wanted to have fun. And which I think
yes.
is amazing as a child to just say, you know what, I just want to have fun. Um,
Right.
and so now she does aerial silks and she loves that because there's no competition. She's just learning. She's
She
able
still gets
to.
to flip around and do what she
Exactly.
liked.
So it's perfect for her. So,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, and because she was vocal about it and said, it's just not fun for me, or this really isn't fitting for me, we were like, okay, well, let's keep looking. Let's, find
Right.
something that is a fit.
Yeah, I love it. I experienced a lot of that as a kiddo too. I had two kind of things. Like I was very into dance,
Hmm.
and I was a ballet dancer. I did point, I did it all, and I loved it.
Wow.
And then there was a point in my life where I was like, okay, I think I might want to do this for the rest of my life. So I had been just doing it for fun. So like Riley, it was my fun, it was my passion, I enjoyed it. And then I decided to take a turn into like be like, okay, so I think I might want to do this long term. And my mom and dad were very supportive. And so then I took a step further and got into the more competitive stuff. And then I found myself surrounded in an environment that I didn't feel I fit in. And I had an opportunity, and my parents were so lovely about this. And because the reason why I didn't feel I fit was because I was bigger than all the other girls at this camp, right? And
Yeah.
so I was like, I don't, and and I had to evaluate that during that experience. I had to evaluate, is this what makes me happy? Is this is this what I really want? And does the discomfort of being different sway me in a way that is real or not? And I had to take those opportunities to really truly evaluate and
Yeah.
figure out what I wanted. And I did end up feeling like, what, I ended up just being more like a Riley. You know what? It's not that I don't want to be around all of these really, really skinny girls and competing and doing all this stuff when I'm not. I actually don't mind it that much because most of the time, what they thought I could do was really impressive. So most of the time I was kind of getting a lot of attention that I thought was fun as a kid, right? Like it was fun for them to be like, wow, I didn't think you could do that. But, but I realized it was, that I just really enjoyed it for me. I didn't really enjoy it in that scenario or in that setting.
Gotcha.
But it was hard for me to figure out. And I was really lucky to have the support of my parents. Not everyone has that support, or not everyone, has that opportunity to weigh it all out and figure out what they want. And if they were, I think Tracy and you, said it perfectly. Like if it brings you joy, that is the perfect question to be asking yourself.
I love that. Yeah. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And so let's go to Bruce real quick. He said, if I find it can be fun, I love to indulge. I love to jump in, i.e., I love purple. And Julie says, which is his partner, says you should not judge people, places, and products based on color. And I reply, this is not about color, it's about purple.
Purple is his passion.
Yeah. It's so funny because I love purple as well. And so like when we chat back and forth, like when we love something, we both give each other a purple heart.
I love it. I love it.
That's so funny. All right. So hang on, there's some other comments. So yes, and just because they're good at it doesn't mean they like it. Yes. Absolutely, Lori. And so Tracy said, my daughter in high school was a very compassionate and great person to have around, and they wanted her to be a student counselor, and she just didn't like it and didn't want to do it. And I told her, if you don't like it, then that doesn't make you a bad person if you don't want to do it. And then she said they were asking her to be a peer counselor. And so,
I remember things like that, Tracy, too. As a youth, like because. The adults around you, whether they're teachers or their parents or their coaches or whatever, but they will see something in you and they'll say, hey, you'll be really good at this. Like, Kate, you will be really good at being an RA or whatever. And it's amazing to hear those things as you're still developing yourself. I mean, okay. Actually, pause right there. I shouldn't say that because we're still developing ourselves for our entire fucking lives, right? We should be, because as we grow, we change. So we're always rediscovering who we are, in my opinion. But when our brains are developing right along with that discovery, you're especially vulnerable, right? So it's super hard to be told you're great at something and that you should do something by everyone around you, whether you are a kid or an adult, and then to have to look back and say, yeah, well, I'm good at it, but I don't fucking like it. So where does that leave me?
Yep. So I think Bruce's will take us to the next one. So purple is a culture. And so with that, let's ask our next question. So do you sometimes modify your appearance or behavior to fit into societal standards or to gain acceptance? Kate, I think you totally fit in.
Yeah. So actually, this one took me a while to get good at, but now that I am good at it, man, am I good at it. So here's the thing: is a lot of people, a lot of women tell me on a regular basis, like, oh my God, I have so much respect for the fact that you just rock that bald head, that you give zero shits about it. And I had to stop myself because for a long time, my response was, yeah. And you know what? It took me like 20 years to do this. And they were like, what? I'm like, yeah, I have wanted to be bald since I was 20. I've hated having hair. And I told myself that I couldn't do that I wouldn't get jobs, that I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't get partners. I wouldn't, that I would look whatever. I would just, like I always made a joke, like, well, if I was a black fat woman, it would look okay. But being a fat white woman, it won't look okay. Like I would see all these ridiculous things and turn it into a joke. And it, it was just before my 40th birthday. Oh, and then for a long time, I set a goal. I said, okay, I want to be bald by 40. I want to be bald by 40. And, because I felt like, okay, if I can get to that level of societal acceptance and level in my career, then I can just do it. Right. And I finally did it. And I have to remind myself that, I should have, I don't know. Some of me feels like I should have just done it earlier. But at the same time, I'm glad I'm finally here, and I didn't, shy away, because it is a struggle. It's a struggle to embrace who you really are when you don't fit in.
Yeah. It's funny because I have had people ask me, they assumed that you must have had cancer, or, I don't know, something else going on. I'm like, no, she just fucking rocks the bald head. And they were like, oh.
Yeah.
And so, like, I love it. And I love the tattoo on the back. And
yeah,
it's not anything that I would want to do. It would not give me joy, but it gives you joy. Like, it's what you love. And I love that you just said, fuck it. And I'm not going to worry about society. And I think, us also working together, and then, probably one of the concerns was, okay, but am I gonna? I'm in our industry, especially. It can be a very conservative industry, and so it's like, will people accept me? Will they? What will they think?
Will they make judgments, and will that affect my success? Right.
Correct. Yeah. And it's funny, I have seen it. So I have seen, like, I've taken Kate places, and I've seen people like do like a double take at her. But then the moment she starts talking, they're like, oh, wow, this person's amazing. Like it just doesn't, like, I've literally had people, I mean, I've sat there and watched it because I think I find it entertaining. I'm just sitting here going, man, she's going to shock the shit out of some people. And I'm just sitting here like, watch it. And I see people take like a double take. And then the moment you start talking about things, all of a sudden you just have a way that when you talk to people, you just put people at ease. And it's like, it doesn't matter anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So
which is awesome.
I love that you do it. Yeah. And I love that you push the boundary, because it makes people also stop judging people by the cover, by their looks, by the cover of the book, that type of thing. So I love it. And so let me switch back. I see we got some comments coming in. So Lori said, that's the biggest takeaway, to just live and let live without judgment.
Yes, absolutely.
And then we have, love you guys. So glad you found me this morning. So glad you found us as well. And Bruce said, yes, I have found it necessary to do certain things and hide their aspects in order to assimilate and be accepted in society, mostly for my job. It is difficult. And as Kate says, it is a struggle. I feel this way as well, because early on in my career, I never felt that I could really be myself. Like, I had my outside person that, like, certain people would get to see the Sarah that most people see nowadays, because I'm just me. Like, it was funny. I even said to my husband, I was like, you know what? I said, I love the fact that I'm just able to be me. Like, I'm with all of these professionals and I'm still saying shit that, I'm saying shit and fuck. And
Right.
I don't really care. This is me. And then there was something that happened. My computer went down and gave me the blue screen of death. And I happened to be around a bunch of IT type people. So everybody is like standing up trying to figure out how they can help me. And I said, well, I will be getting a new computer. I said, I don't even have my 7 button. And I go, 7. And Amy next to me goes, oh my God, I love you even more now. So like I'm saying inappropriate things, and it's just like I don't care anymore.
Right. Because there's like the lines have to be blurred. Like, why are we as humans, set up to be like, okay, now this is a professional setting, right? And there's some things that happen in a professional setting that shouldn't happen in a familial setting or whatever, and for me, sure, there are some things that are just inappropriate based on your audience, right? Sure. And that can have to do with age, that can have to do with comfort, whatever. We all have to learn, who we're around and make sure that people are comfortable. But what that's really about isn't about like these fake lines that we have defined. That's really about boundaries and kindness and love, right? So for me, in my professional setting, when I choose not to swear because I'm going to hold back, I tell myself actually, and this is more of a recent thing, that I'm choosing not to do this because I don't really know their comfort level of the people that I'm talking with, sure. Right? And I'm training myself to not tell myself that it's just wrong, because it's not wrong. Like you can make a choice based on other things that still respect who you are. So it's my value to try as hard as I can to not make people uncomfortable. There are times when I have to. There are, but in this situation where if it doesn't call for it, if that's not what needs to happen in that situation, then I'm going to try hard not to make someone uncomfortable. But if my very presence makes them uncomfortable, that's not my problem. That's their fucking problem, right? Exactly. So that's the huge difference.
Agreed. So welcome, Maria. Maria's joining us from YouTube. She said, I love these shirts. Just joined. So she'll have to catch the replay. So I think it's been good so far. What do you think, Kate? I love this conversation.
Me too. It's been really fun. And I love how engaged everyone is.
I do too. Tracy said exactly. When it's your choice to alter your behavior because you want to make others feel good at the moment, or don't want to offend someone at the moment because you care about them, not because you care what they think of you. I love that point. And
yes, exactly. You said that really well, Tracy.
Conversation. Yeah. All right. And I think, to sort of summarize this particular question of, do you sometimes modify your appearance or behavior to fit into societal standards? I guess the real question is, again, are you able to be happy just being you the way you are right now? And many times when we change that external stuff, we're still unhappy. Because we didn't focus on the self-acceptance. And so, so think about things, for example, like I'm going to throw out some things. So boob jobs, like, is that really making you happy? Or are you doing that because you want someone to accept you? It could be either. It really could. But evaluate, self-reflect, like, why is it that you're doing it? Are you doing it because you're really wanting to fit in to a particular view of what's accepted, or what, you think people think is beautiful? Like if she doesn't have big enough boobs, therefore she's not, beautiful. Well, sometimes I've seen a lot of flat-chested women that fucking rock it. And sometimes I'm looking at them going, man, I wish I had less, because they're just, I'm just like, I couldn't wear that. And I just love that they rock what it is that they have, hair plugs, losing weight, do you do these things to validate the looks that people want you to have in society, or are you doing it really because it makes you happy?
Right.
So like this is one of the things that bothers me about losing weight. Like people post about losing weight. I'm like, great. If you're doing that to get healthy and it's making you happy, that's great. But if you're really doing it because you're seeking approval from other
Mm-hmm.
people that you've lost the weight, that to me is when it's, I'm just like, why? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times what I find is you really haven't dealt with the other stuff that really made you unhappy.
Right. Right. Yeah, definitely. That's a huge, I mean, we could have a whole episode on weight loss alone. And I actually would love to. I think as 2 plus size women, we totally should. That would be great, to do that.
Yeah,
But there's so much to unpack there. But
there is.
in general, I have 2 females in my life that were, and they're one's was Jenna's really close friend, and one was my really close friend, and we aren't as close to them now, but we're still like kind of peripherally involved. And both of them had like very unevenly sized breasts,
Mhm.
like so, where like even doctors would say, yeah, you know what, you can totally fix that. That's like something we can help you with. And it felt less cosmetic than, you know, and not necessarily medical need, but like way
Yeah.
less cosmetic. And one decided to never do anything about it and just completely accept that, and the other decided to do something about it, and the other decided to do something about it, after a marriage, and it was really apparent to Jen and I that that wasn't their desire, that was the desire of the husband, right?
Mm.
And when we look at those 2 females, you know it's pretty clear to us that the woman who didn't do anything about it has allowed those values to align throughout other types of choices in her life, and she is a really happy person versus the person who made who's continued to make choices that weren't really for them but more for
Yeah.
their husband, right?
Yeah. And that's what I hate for people. It's like, do it for you. Like if
Right.
that's what you want, go do it. But the moment you do it for someone else, they're just going to find something else to nitpick at you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Fourth one, last question, and then we're going to also summarize things. Do you tend to favor interactions that align with your existing beliefs rather than embracing open dialogue?
Oh, this one is super tricky because
Mhm.
I have long struggled with that in a few different ways. So I think one of the bigger shaping ways is that, growing up in the 80s and 90s, and coming of age in the late 90s, and being a gay woman, I had to, at some points, I felt it was necessary to compartmentalize, right?
Mm.
To find the people that were okay with that, versus finding the people that weren't. And it's a totally, so it's a different world now, which is
Mhm.
awesome. But that is a habit that I kind of formed. Then you also think of, what is my goal then in those interactions, right? So like when we're favoring interactions that align with our existing beliefs, that's because we want to be surrounded with like-minded people, right?
Mhm.
Because it's comfortable. There are times when I need that or want that. Um, and but that's what I'm valuing in that time. I'm valuing the comfort. There are other times when I'm valuing an open dialogue. And in order to get to that open dialogue, I have to be open, which is
What?
super hard, right? Like I want I value equality. I value diversity. These are values I hold. Now, but connecting, like that's talk, but walking that talk is sometimes really fucking hard for me, because if I'm in a situation where then somebody tells a joke that I find offensive, then I'm compelled to say, whoa, I think that's offensive. But that leads us down into a conversation sometimes that I'm not open to, and that's a hard boundary for me. But it's just, I think it's really tricky, and I would love to hear if other people have similar experiences.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I grew up debating. Like, that is what
Right.
we did. We had a very open conversation about everything growing up. And a lot of people, they got really uncomfortable coming over to our house because it would almost seem like we were arguing. But we never took it seriously. Like, we were like, well, no, blah, 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 that type of thing. So we were,
Right.
but
It
I
was a
think,
debate.
yeah, exactly. But one of the things that I have continued to learn as I've gotten older is that it doesn't always have to be a debate. So I've started to change my perspective in things and say, again, sort of going back to the very beginning, it's okay for someone to believe this, and it's okay for me to believe this. Like, we come at things in two different ways. We all experience things differently growing up, so of course we're going to have different perspectives. The
Right.
question really comes to, are you stopping yourself from understanding other perspectives? Or do you put yourself in like an echo chamber that if it's not this, if it's not in my box, therefore
Right.
I don't want to hear it? For me, one of the things I do put a hard boundary on is if I constantly hear people with negativity, I just don't want to hear it. So for me, yes, that's a hard boundary. But I'm willing to have a conversation with people about different perspectives on things and go, huh, that's interesting. Never thought of it that way. Or
Right.
I don't know. I'm having a hard time, agreeing with that, or understanding your perspective on that. And so sometimes it's very complex.
Yeah.
But it really is being curious is one of the things that I found that I have to constantly also remind myself is just be curious. Huh, that's interesting. Tell me more. Tell me
Right.
more. Well, what do you mean by that? And so the more you start to get people to drill into it, then that's when you're really able to understand whether it makes sense or not, or whether can resonate with it. But even like on the reason it's sort of going back to the initial reason we started this conversation is because Jen asked, are we engaging on social media or just seeking those validations? And so,
Right.
so I started to think differently because of that comment. I'm like, huh. And even on today's show, I was like, all right, well, let's engage. Let's make sure we're asking questions to the audience so we can get feedback and get other perspectives and other thoughts. Because it doesn't necessarily mean you're right and I'm wrong. It just means it's right for you and it could be right for me.
Right. Right. And I have to remind myself that even though these big topics are really felt intensely for some people, right? Like, so for me, I'll pick a, just a random topic, like abortion, right? So for everybody has a differing view on it, right?
Yep.
And
man, you just went for the jugular.
I just went for the jugular. I was like, let's pick and we all have a different view on it. But so if I'm a person that is supporting pro-choice and somebody is pro-life, is how that feels so starkly different than Bruce liking purple and me liking green, right? But at the end of the day, if you're pro-life and I'm pro-choice, it's kind of the same as purple and green. I'm not a legislator. I'm not God. I can't tell you what you can and cannot do, right? Just like I can't say, whoa, Bruce, purple is outlawed. No, fuck purple. You only have to like green, like, at the end of the day, these things are personal preferences. And it's so hard to remember that, when you're talking about tricky things, because, purple may not have gotten you through a really hard time, but maybe an abortion did. I don't know. Like these things have different weights, but are they aligned with the end of result of where they are, or how things really matter? I don't know. It's super hard, but
it is.
You can't go wrong if you focus on what gives you joy, right? Like, at the end of the day, if you're focusing on internal stuff and aligning those with your values, you can't really go wrong.
Yeah. So Chris joined us, and so thank you, Chris. So Chris is going to actually be on the 26th of January. And so she said, been driving and have been listening to the discussion, love the perspectives and experiences shared. So thank you for joining us, Chris, and letting us know that you're here. And Tracy said, Kate, so well put, it depends where we are at within ourselves in any given situation.
Oh, thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, when we think about interactions and whether we tend to favor interactions that align with our existing beliefs, I can say that, I have been guilty in the past of posting things or doing things in order to just seek validation, or, oh, how many likes did you get, that type of thing. And so really the purpose in this is to engage, have a conversation, understand the other perspectives in life, because that's when we really grow and learn about things that if we just took a moment to understand someone else's perspective, we might change our mind, or we might be open to other possibilities. And I'll give you an example of this. So I have a friend that grew up very religious. She was taught, to believe a particular way. But she was feeling in her heart that there was something else. There was something different for her. Like, she still believed, but it was like a lot of the stuff that was happening, she was trying to figure out, where to go in things. And so it was, but the fact that she was more open to the experience of other things, she then all of a sudden had further things that she was able to explore about herself, that had she not, she wouldn't have had any opportunity in that.
Yeah, and that's huge. I mean, those opportunities are part of what makes us grow, and part of makes us figure out what we want.
Yep. And so, Kate, I know you just realized you have a hard stop.
Yeah, I have to get to the doctor's office.
Oh my gosh.
I have an appointment and this conversation just went by like it was 10 minutes, so I've been loving today's episode. It's been hard to stop talking. I feel like we need to have more episodes on some of these topics for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you want me to end things for us today so you can go ahead and head out?
On your own? You want me to just jump off, and will you do our poem? I can listen from the car.
That's what I was going to do. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. I love it. You're amazing. Okay. Thank you all so much. Have a badass weekend. And I can't wait to hear you kind of wrap this up, Sarah. I love you.
Perfect. All right. We'll get to your appointment.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Bye. All right. So I wanted to just sort of wrap up things a little bit. I see that we have another comment that has come in. And so Myra, thank you for joining. She said, great conversation. Everyone have a badass weekend. And so I'm really going to wrap things up. I had created a poem to be able to summarize today's topic. And so I'm going to go ahead and read that. And so it is the title of Mirror of Happiness. In seeking external validation, we often lose our way, yearning for affirmations to help us slay the day. We chase elusive praises from those we hope to please, thinking their approval will put our mind at ease. Early on, we learn to endlessly pursue validation, praise, approval in all we do. But in its reflection, a truth is shown. It weighs on our hearts like burdens unknown. A light of truth is awaiting to be found. The music of self acceptance, oh, what a joyous sound. Seeking within, not from external gaze, embracing our essence through life's winding maze. Instead of seeking outside for our worth, true validation lies within our gift from birth. No longer defined by others' fleeting views, we find peace in ourselves, embracing our own hues. For in the silent acceptance of our truest form, we find inner strength can weather any storm. No longer seeking others' approval of who we are, we find the mirror of happiness is our guiding star. And so thank you everyone for joining us today. I loved this conversation and I just really loved the fact that everybody was so interactive. So thank you for that. Bruce said, bye, gotta go. And Lori says, love this poem. And so, everyone, I just really want to thank you for joining us. Tracy, thank you. She said, so beautiful. Thank you for joining us today. And be sure to check out next week's session. We're going to be having an episode. I think next week is the 26th. So, Chris will be on. And we're going to be advertising that, and that will be on soon. And so be sure to check back and make sure that you see the advertisement for that. And so thank you, everyone, for your comments. Thank you to all the new people that have joined us today as well. And so I really appreciate it and hope that you come back. And so, like Kate says, we hope that this fuels your Friday and brings you into the next week to have a beautiful, positive Monday and have an amazing weekend. And if you have time, come by the No BS Tribe and check us out tomorrow as well. I'll be on that show with them. So thank you, everyone.